Imagine a world where electricity doesn't come from giant power plants, tangled wires, or fragile grids, but instead from systems so independent they power themselves anytime, anywhere. Now imagine Africa leading this global transformation. This isn't science fiction. This is Africa's power revolution. For decades, Africa's energy story has been written in shadows. Across the continent, over 600 million people still lack reliable access to electricity. Traditional grids are expensive, fragile, and slow to expand. Power cuts remain daily frustrations. But instead of waiting for outdated systems, Africa is asking a bold question. Do we even need the grid at all? The answer lies in grid-free, self-sustaining energy systems. Across Africa, innovators are leapfrogging the old model, deploying solar rooftops, microhydropower, wind, and even experimental self-charging technologies. These aren't just alternatives. They're revolutions in motion. From Zimbabwe's bold experiments with self-charging electric vehicles, to Nigeria's solar power communities, to Morocco's vast renewable hubs, Africa is proving that energy independence is not a dream, but a blueprint for the future. Imagine homes, schools, and businesses powered by systems that generate, store, and distribute their own electricity without a national grid in sight. Here's the paradox. Africa's lack of traditional infrastructure is becoming its greatest advantage. Unlike Europe or the U.S., burdened by old grids, Africa is free to build smarter, faster, and cleaner from the ground up. The continent could bypass the fossil fuel age altogether and set the global standard for self-sustaining energy systems. But this revolution isn't just about electricity. It's about freedom. Freedom from outages, freedom from expensive bills, freedom from centralized control. A future where every village, every home, every device becomes its own power station. Africa isn't waiting for permission. It's rewriting the future of energy, and the world is watching. The age of the grid may be coming to an end. And the question is not if, but when the rest of the world will follow Africa's lead. What do you think? Could self-sustaining energy truly replace the traditional grid? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the future of technology and innovation. Across Africa, the revolution is already unfolding. In Kenya, solar power microgrids are lighting up entire villages that the national grid never reached. Families are cooking, children are studying, and businesses are thriving, all thanks to community-run solar networks. In Nigeria, entrepreneurs are deploying pay-as-you-go solar kits, giving households clean energy without debt or dependency. And in Morocco, the world's largest concentrated solar power plant, the Noor complex, generated enough energy to power 1 million homes, showcasing how Africa can lead on a global scale. But solar is only the beginning. Bold inventors are pushing boundaries. Zimbabwe's Maxwell Chikumbutso has unveiled experimental self-charging devices and vehicles designed to generate their own power without the need for traditional charging. While controversial and debated, innovations like these reflect a growing movement, a refusal to be limited by old energy rules. In South Africa, researchers are developing hydrogen-based microgrids, while startups in Ghana and Rwanda are exploring bioenergy solutions that turn waste into power. Africa's energy leapfrog mirrors its success in mobile banking. Just as millions skip traditional banks and embrace mobile money, millions are now skipping the national grid and embracing grid-free electricity. This advantage positions Africa not just as a follower in global energy, but as a leader shaping the future. And here's the twist. What happens in Africa will not stay in Africa. As the world faces rising energy costs, climate change, and grid failures, grid-free systems developed here could spread everywhere. Imagine U.S. suburbs, European towns, or Asian megacities adopting African-born energy solutions. In many ways, the future of global electricity may be written in Africa. Fast forward to the year 2050. Africa is no longer the continent struggling with blackouts. It is the blueprint for the world's clean energy revolution. Imagine entire cities running on smart microgrids, homes that generate more energy than they consume, and electric highways where cars charge wirelessly as they drive. In this future, energy poverty is erased, and Africa becomes the first continent where every citizen has guaranteed access to electricity. But this revolution is not only about technology, it's about economic freedom. A self-powered Africa means less reliance on foreign oil, less vulnerability to energy imports, and more local wealth creation. Every new solar panel, every wind turbine, every microgrid built is not just powering homes. It is powering African ownership of the future. Of course, revolutions are never simple. Challenges remain: financing, technology adoption, political will, and global competition for resources. Powerful oil lobbies fear this shift, and even some governments hesitate to let go of centralized control. Yet, the momentum is unstoppable. As costs of renewables fall and innovation spreads, grid-free energy is no longer a dream. It is an inevitability. Today, the world looks at Africa with new eyes, not as a continent of scarcity, but as a laboratory of abundance. Nations across Europe and Asia are already studying African microgrid models. Energy corporations are racing to invest in African startups, realizing the technologies born here may soon reshape global energy markets. Across the continent, different nations are carving their place in this energy transformation. Kenya leads with decentralized solar farms and geothermal power from the Great Rift Valley. Morocco is harnessing the desert sun with projects so vast, they're visible from space. Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation, is betting on decentralized solar kits and private mini-grids to electrify millions of households. South Africa is exploring green hydrogen, turning sunlight and water into the fuels of the future. Each country is writing a chapter in a much larger story, a continental revolution. At the heart of this revolution are African innovators, engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs who refuse to wait for solutions from abroad. From young students building self-powered devices in Zimbabwe, to startups in Rwanda creating pay-as-you-go solar systems, to inventors experimenting with magnetic and kinetic energy technologies, Africa is showing that necessity truly breeds innovation. These aren't isolated experiments. They're sparks in a wildfire creativity. Africa's greatest energy source may not be the sun or the wind. It's the youth. With a median age of under 20, Africa's new generation is growing up in a digital-first, grid-free world. They are coding apps to control microgrids, designing AI-powered energy systems, and dreaming of a continent where power cuts are nothing more than a story their parents tell them. This youth-driven wave is unstoppable, and it's redefining what energy freedom means. But make no mistake, energy is never just about technology. It is about power in every sense of the word. As Africa turns away from fossil fuels and builds its own energy independence, the balance of global geopolitics begins to shift. Oil-rich nations fear decline. Global superpowers are eyeing Africa's rare earth minerals, essential for solar panels and batteries. Yet Africa, for the first time in centuries, holds a position of bargaining power on the world stage. Africa's move toward grid-free, self-sustaining power is not going unnoticed. The global energy giants, the oil cartels, fossil fuel corporations, and even some foreign governments see this revolution as a threat to their dominance. For decades, Africa was seen as a consumer, dependent on imported fuel and centralized power. But now, with decentralized energy spreading like wildfire, the tables are turning, and that shift sparks tension. At the heart of the struggle are Africa's critical minerals: lithium, cobalt, and rare earth metals. These resources are essential for solar panels, wind turbines, and the batteries that power the grid-free revolution. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo and Namibia are becoming battlegrounds for influence, as global powers compete to control the supply chains. But for the first time, African leaders are refusing to play the old game. Instead, they are asking, why export raw materials when we can build the future here on our own soil? This new energy reality is reshaping diplomacy. Deals once signed for oil barrels are now being inked for solar exports and green hydrogen. Partnerships are shifting. China, the EU, and even the U.S. are negotiating directly with African innovators and governments. But the difference now? Africa holds the leverage. For every megawatt exported, every microgrid built, Africa strengthens not just its economy, but its voice on the world stage. Of course, power never changes hands peacefully. Fossil fuel interests are pushing back hard, funding misinformation campaigns, lobbying African governments, and even slowing renewable projects through bureaucracy and corruption. Yet, Despite the resistance, the momentum is too strong. Communities once in the dark are now refusing to go back. For them, the revolution has already begun. As the 21st century unfolds, Africa moves beyond survival into leadership. Vast solar highways and Sahara beam electricity through undersea cables to Europe. Hydrogen hubs in Namibia fuel industries across Asia. Mini grids in rural Kenya become blueprints for smart cities in America. What began as a solution to blackouts has grown into a model for the entire planet. Africa is no longer following the world. It is powering the world. The old story painted Africa as a continent in the dark. But the new story is one of light generated, owned, and shared by Africans themselves. This revolution is not just technological. It is cultural, economic, and spiritual. It's about rewriting what freedom means, the power to generate your own future. The lesson is clear. The future of energy is not controlled by those who cling to the past, but by those who dare to imagine something new. Africa dared, and in doing so, became the world's light bearer. The age of grid-free, self-sustaining power is here. And it all began on the continent that was once underestimated, but is now unforgettable.